Hey, good afternoon. My name is Joe Marchese, and I'm here with Marjorie Young.
Good afternoon.
This is our 5th annual event of the State of Small Business. It's certainly evolved and changed over the years, but we're very, very happy to be here, and we'd like to welcome you all to this live-streamed event.
Quite different than last year.
Yeah.
We had 300 people in the audience, but this was actually, I think, a better decision.
Yeah, it's kind of an
Yeah.
interesting evolution because, you know, we're here in this historic place, but we're using definitely 21st century media
Absolutely.
to get this out. So welcome you all on the web and on whatever device you might be watching us on. So this year we have 11 presenters, and what we're trying to do is give you a 3-minute snapshot of an expert in their industry. So someone to tell you 3 minutes about Savannah from their perspective. As each presenter, after they present, we have a panel of small business owners that will kind of give you a takeaway or maybe ask one question or a redirect. So very informal. It's supposed to be a conversation.
Very conversational. Last year, the presenters got up there, did their 3-minute talk, and then left. But this year, we really want to make sure that the folks watching this understand the importance of these small business numbers and how you can use them to grow your business. That's the whole idea here.
Yeah, so hopefully you'll take something away and you'll be able to increase your business here in Savannah. So before we get started, we'd like to say thank you to the organizations that have helped us to put this on.
We want to thank Bethesda Academy for hosting this live stream here. We want to thank Paul Mazo back there with Stagefront for live streaming this event, and SCORE for being a sponsor.
Yep. We also want to thank the Bowen Law Group, the Small Business Development Corporation, and the Small Business Assistance Corporation.
We want to thank the City of Savannah Economic Development Department, Georgia Southern, Armstrong, and the Tourism Leadership Council.
Colliers International of Savannah, Spiros, and the Communities and Schools.
And thank you to the Ports Authority, the Georgia Department of Labor, and CETA.
Okay. And now we'd like to bring John Redden, who is the Vice President, up to tell us a little bit about the place that we're in today.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, we are so delighted. I want to welcome each and every one of you here to the Ford Museum at Bethesda Academy. The Ford Museum was actually named for Bill Ford, who was an ordained minister, and he was the first and only alumnus of Bethesda to actually serve as Bethesda's president as well. And as you look around, it is a remarkable museum. It's a wonderful tribute to Bill. And it does a great story of telling Bethesda's role, not only in the formation of Georgia as a colony, but really in the formation of the United States as a country. So if you get a chance, please look around, enjoy it, and again, we're delighted to have you here. Also, one other thing, before this was a museum, this was actually a dining hall for the boys. This building itself, Burroughs Hall, was built in 1883 for the total price of $4,055. So it's really very fitting that Bethesda is hosting today's State of Small Business. We have been steeped and tied to small business since we were founded by the Reverend George Whitfield in 1740. Reverend Whitfield did many great things. He was responsible for the Great Awakening. But probably one of the neatest things that he did is he talked James Habersham into coming to the United States, well, not the United States, to the colonies, to be the first president of Bethesda and of the new orphanage that they had started. And so Habersham came over here with him in 1740. And for the first 3 or 4 years, he tried to really get things going, but he was very frustrated that he couldn't make it succeed like he wanted. And he kept beseeching Whitfield to please let him go and start his own business because he really felt like he could help us more on that front. And so Whitfield finally relented, and in 1744, Habersham started a shipping enterprise between Savannah and London that ended up arguably being the most successful early business for the Georgia colony. And this is him right here. This is Mr. Habersham. He had such great success with that he was able to purchase 15,000 acres and had rice plantations all up and down the area here. And he actually set up 3 separate rice plantations for us. You know where Memorial Stadium is as you're driving down the Truman? Those were rice plantations that belonged to Bethesda and that we used not only for to feed the kids that were here, but we also used the excess to sell privately. Bethesda is also responsible, our alums are also responsible for the first trade association The Union Society was started in the 1750s, made up of artisans, craftsmen from Bethesda, who were feeling threatened now that slavery was being allowed in the state of Georgia. They were feeling threatened that slave labor, skilled slave labor, might be a competitor of them. And so they worked together to thwart that. And they had great success, and they had such success, they ended up really becoming a wonderfully charitable organization with Bethesda almost always at the core of their heart. One of the other alums that is also a great story of business success, I don't have more than 3 minutes, huh?
Right, 3 minutes, that's good. It's fine, take your time.
All right.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, all right. So anyway, Barney Diamond, you've heard the Diamond Causeway. He's a Bethesda alum, and he left here in 1917 with a bus token. That's all he had. 42 years later, when he died, he left Bethesda $35 million. But we didn't get it. His new wife, of just 2 years earlier, contested the will, and we ended up getting $3 million, which was still a lot of money, and it's still the core of our endowment today. But another great success story. Moving forward to today, we are still, again, tied very closely to small business. We have a number of enterprises here on the campus that really help us pay the bills, whether it's managing the property across the street, the Kroger property that belongs to us, our working farm, our wedding business, which is also very profitable. We're in the cattle business, and we also have a hunting and wilderness preserve across the street that ends up creating some terrific revenue for us. From our early days as an orphanage, we have evolved. We are now a leadership academy and a private school for young men in grades 6 through 12, most of whom come from disadvantaged backgrounds. And thanks to South State Bank and to Mary Ellen Yarborough, we've actually created what we call the Center for Young Entrepreneurs. And every boy on our campus, all 108 of them, have an internship that they may go, and they're in for 1 hour each day. And they get graded on it every Friday, and they're graded for things like respectfulness, timeliness, taking initiative, and for leadership. I'm glad I don't get grades every Friday. But our goal here at Bethesda is really to create citizens that are going to be able to be productive for Savannah, and that will be able to be great employees for your businesses, whether they go to work right after Bethesda for you or they come back after college. Finally, I want to make sure, I would be remiss if I didn't tell the group in this room or those watching online, that Bethesda is also a terrific spot for corporate retreats or for corporate parties. Any celebrations that you might want to have, we've got some great spots, and we'd love to have your business with that. So anyway, thank you very much for being here today. We're delighted to have you. We look forward to a very productive time, and thanks so much.
What an amazing history. How many businesses can say they've been around since 1740? Gosh. Anyhow, thank you, John. Our next speaker is the current chair of SCORE, an organization that's very near and dear to my heart. I was the past president in 2011 to 2013. They mentor small businesses for free. So anybody watching, you can get hooked up with these guys because they are really good. Mike, please come up. That didn't sound really good.
Thank you, Marjorie and Joe. Appreciate it. Good afternoon. Savannah SCORE is very pleased and proud to be a supporter and sponsor of the 2017 State of Small Business Conference. For those of you who are not familiar with SCORE, we are the largest provider of free business mentoring and educational services to small businesses in the United States. Founded in 1964 as part of the Small Business Administration, there are now over 320 chapters of SCORE around the United States, and there are 11,000 volunteers who donate over 2 million hours of their time to assist aspiring entrepreneurs and small business owners to start, manage, and grow their businesses. During the fiscal year that just ended on September 30th, the Savannah SCORE team mentored over 700 individual mentoring sessions and presented 104 workshop sessions and seminars in the city. And what we're most proud of is last year we helped start 135 new businesses. And thank you. and help to create 275 new non-management jobs. Because of our work with the Savannah small business community, we are so proud that we have been named in the top 10% of all chapters in the United States and have been nominated as Chapter of the Year.
Wow.
We're located in the Small Business Resource Center on 111 East Liberty, where we share office space with our good friends and colleagues in the Small Business Assistance Corporation. So if you need assistance with starting or growing your business, or if you'd like to volunteer to be a SCORE mentor, please call us or contact us at savannah.score.org. Thanks very much for this opportunity, and I hope you enjoyed today's State of Small Business Conference. Thank you.
I just want to point out that you do not need to be retired to volunteer to be a SCORE mentor. And how many do you have now? How many local?
We just got up to 35. We just added 4 new mentors recently.
Very good.
Yeah.
So they have 35 volunteers for SCORE here locally. Okay, what's next on our agenda?
So we did want to introduce you to our panel of small business owners and also Dr. Michael Toma. And this will be the panel that has a few questions for our presenters. So Cecilia?
Come on up, and I just want to introduce everybody. Elaine, come on up. Come on up. So when the presenters give their reports, we are then going to ask them some questions, and we only have about 3 minutes afterwards too, so it's not a big thing. So Elaine, come up first. Elaine Longwater is with Longwater and Company. How long have you been in business?
38 years.
So you will have some good insight on what these numbers mean. Absolutely. Thank you, Elaine.
Thank you very much.
And this is Cecilia Russo with Cecilia Russo Marketing.
Good morning, good afternoon. I am with Cecilia Russo Marketing, and my business will be 10 years old, March
Yay!
2000. Yeah, this coming March. So I started in 2008 when nobody started businesses then. So anyway, it's been 10 fun years. I've learned a lot, but definitely a small business. And I'm a daughter of a small business owner that's been around for over 70 years now, Russo Seafood. So I know all about small business and the importance of it. So glad to be here.
Thank you. And next we have Rural Joyner with 24E, another very big small business advocate in our community.
Thank you. You know, it's such a pleasure to be here today and for us to be here to represent small business, whether it's the Chamber of Commerce or the Tourism Leadership Council to the Savannah Downtown Business Association. We are the people that are running the registers and paying the property taxes and part of this this fiber that makes this community rich. We've been on Broughton Street since 1986.
Wow.
And I took over from my parents. It's been probably a little over 15, 16 years now. And we're just so excited with what's going on in Savannah, and you know, the future is bright. We're bullish.
So tell us a little bit about this involvement that you have in the small business community.
Well, you know, anyone that knows me, I'm a very passionate person, and especially when I see a worthy cause, and there's nothing more worthy than the American worker. And to me, there's nothing more worthy than the person that actually goes out and you know, puts that sweat, that blood, their tears into their own business. You know, whether it is a failure or it's a victory, it's on their back, and there's other people that are depending upon them, and that puts a fire in me.
Good. Awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for helping.
So it's not the person that's a hero that is a successful small business. You're a hero when you start a small business, because just going out and taking that leap really makes you a hero. So this is another hero. This is Marjorie Young, and she owns Carriage Trade PR.
Yay!
Hi. And Joe is also going to be one of the part of the panel with Joe Marchese Construction. So, and we're also going to ask Dr. Toma. He's doing lots of duties here with us today. So, Dr. Toma, but we're going to introduce you in just a second. So, before we get started, we're going to encourage you to use the hashtag SmallBiz, B-I-Z, SAV17 on Twitter and Facebook. Again, that's hashtag SmallBizSav17 on Twitter and Facebook. And a PDF will be available on the SCORE's website in about a week. We actually did get it finished. So all the information will be on a big PDF, and you'll be able to download it. So are we ready to go?
Yes.
Let's kind of like speed dating, you know? They're going to have 3 minutes. And that they're going to present their information. So Joe, let's get you to start first.
Yeah, so I'd like to present Dr. Michael Toma. He's the director for the Center for Regional Analysis at Armstrong State University, and he is going to talk about small business employment statistics. Dr. Toma?
Thank you, Joe. Thank you. I appreciate the invitation to be back again. I've been watching the Savannah economy now from about the 30,000 foot level for about 20 years, and it's just been very exciting to watch this economy grow and small businesses grow along with it. So the most recent data that I have available at the micro, at the sort of at the firm level, is available through the first quarter of 2017. And from the previous year up to the first quarter of 2017, small businesses in Savannah, and from my definition, I'll use businesses that employ fewer than 50 workers. Small businesses in Savannah increased their employment by 2.6%. That was about 1,500 workers, which actually outpaced countywide employment growth of 2% over that same period of time. So the small businesses really have been taking a leadership role in the sense of creating new jobs and creating opportunities for individuals in our regional economy. These small businesses, fewer than 50 workers in these businesses, they employ about 40% of total workers in our regional economy and account for about 50% of the growth in employment during this period of time. And that's a number, that 50% is on the downside really in the sense of it's an underestimate. It's the minimum amount, because you see what happens is firms that were in the 29 to 49 employment category, they kind of grow up and graduate into being a large business. And so what we saw is effectively a migration of firms that had 5 or fewer workers kind of into that middle slice of workers, firms between 5 and about 25 to 35 workers, but we had significant growth in the number of small businesses that employ just up to 50 workers. Most of the growth that we saw among small businesses was in that section of that slice of firms in terms of their establishment size. So you would see what's happening is that you have a migration of smaller businesses, kind of the micro small businesses, 5 or fewer in that middle range of category. And then in that middle range of category, that had those folks kind of grew up into firms that were relatively larger. And that's where the real growth is in the segment. There's about 1,700 workers who were employed, new workers in those firms that had between 20 and 50 workers. So that's a 6% growth rate. So that's three times the county's growth period in terms of its employment over the same period of time. So these small businesses are doing well. They're doing what we hope they would do. They may be starting small, they're growing, they're getting bigger, and then they're sort of graduating, if you will, into big businesses here in Chatham County.
Thank you.
So
So that seems like very good news for our area.
there's no question. We have a favorable business climate right now for small businesses with the underlying growth that we have in our economy. We have a very diverse economy. We have a very healthy tourism industry. We have a very healthy now filmmaking industry in town. So all these are creating opportunities for small businesses in our county. It's a wonderful opportunity.
Do you see any negative news coming out at all? Is there something that we need to be aware of?
I don't have anything that comes to mind off the top of my head. I am interested in hearing what our other speakers have to say. I think we're going to learn a lot today, and I think we're probably going to hear that things are going very well, and that the ideal thing about this format is that we'll hear these perspectives from very different angles in terms of folks who work with small businesses in our area.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Okay, so our next presenter is on labor statistics. Faith Copeland-Pittman, Business Services Recruiter for the Georgia Department of Labor. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Faith. I'm a Business Services Recruiter with the Georgia Department of Labor. Business Services Unit was created to provide employer-driven services to our business community and build strong alliances. As Marjorie said to me a little earlier, Savannah is on fire. And on behalf of Commissioner Mark Butler, I'm happy to report to you that it's a not only beautiful day in Savannah, but it's a great time to live, work, and invest in the Savannah economy. Metro Savannah's economy and employment outlook remained healthy. Even despite the recent losses with Hurricane Irma, it's had little impact on the successful record-breaking year, not only that the Savannah economy has experienced, as well as that's a trend statewide in Georgia. So we have a lot to celebrate today in terms of economic growth and prosperity that we wish for all of you to continue in the coming year. I'll share with you a few numbers. The unemployment rate in central Savannah River fell in September, and the number of residents employed increased, and the number of unemployment claims declined. All good news. September unemployment rate of 4.8% was down from August 5.5 and compared favorably with the rate last year of 6.4. In September, the number of employed residents increased by 2,359, totaling almost 202,000 workers in Savannah area, which is an increase of 8,506 employed residents since this time a year ago. Unemployment claims were down phenomenally to 1,130, indicating, as I said, that the region continues to head in a prosperous and in the right direction. As I mentioned earlier too, the Hurricane Irma did impact some of our businesses, and our business services unit was pleased to contact nearly 7,000 businesses in our coastal area to advise them of opportunities available through the disaster unemployment insurance program and provide assistance to those who had lost income due to the storm. But despite those losses, the numbers continue to be strong. And of significance to employers was that they were not charged for those benefits that were paid to their employees as a result of income loss. Comparably to the state in October, Georgia broke the 4.5 million jobs barrier, bouncing back from job loss. They also set records in Georgia for the labor force and the number of employed residents, trending again in the right direction for a dynamic and growing Georgia economy. Over the past 12 months, Georgia added 87,800 jobs, a 2% growth rate, outpacing the nation's growth rate of 1.4%. The labor force statewide is up by 123,000 and something since October 2016, while the unemployment rate fell to 4.3% as compared to 5.4% this past October. Of notably interest, the lowest jobless rate ever recorded for the state of Georgia was 3.4% in November 2000. So we are getting close to that. Would like to, in closing, invite you to look at our recruitment website, www.employeegeorgia.com. Employers utilize this website to recruit new employees at no cost. And currently, Employee Georgia shows 2,351 active job postings in the Savannah area. And for September, 2,645 job postings for October. That compares to 59,000 job postings for the state of Georgia. Additional labor market information can be found at our website, www.gdol.ga.gov. Thank you.
Gosh, another very positive report. Thank you. I've got a question for you. What do you attribute the growth to? I mean, that's a great number.
That's a hard question for me. I think multiple factors. Many of all the things that I mentioned in terms of the numbers of residents that are entering the workforce and the number of available people to work, the numbers that have declined, as well as just the financial picture is looking great.
Good.
And things like the stock market doing well. And recently, I was privileged to joined our commissioner here, and we hosted our regional employer summit. Right. And one of the things that really struck me in working with Savannah businesses, and in particular many small businesses, and we partnered with the Department of Agriculture and Georgia Grown, was the passion that I see from the businesses here. And that was just reflected in your introduction of your panel. You do a great job marketing Savannah as like I said, a great place to work and to live.
That's very interesting. And how many, Will, are you familiar with the disaster unemployment assistance with all the retail folks that you deal with? Did you know about that?
Honestly, I knew that there were some types of programs. We didn't dig into any of that. I'd not heard anything on the local level. But, one of the questions that I also had for you as well is hearing Commissioner Butler speak the last time he was in town. It's been very much on his mind. Issues with soft skills and what affects us in, for Georgia small businesses. What are some of those metrics that you're looking at, and could you tell us a little bit about the programs that y'all are doing to help that workforce-ready component that we need for these growing businesses?
We do have a program, and it is the Commissioner's Initiative called Georgia Best, where we are working with the middle schools and high schools in Savannah, and I understand Chatham County is a big supporter of that program, where we're teaching day to day, and someone was mentioning about grading earlier, also working with the technical schools, so not only teaching it, but evaluating it and trying to make improvements to it. We're also working on some other possible pilot projects for employers to use with their existing employees. It's kind of summarized job skills or that soft skills thing, so a lot of people ask me, what is it? And I just define it as knowing to do the right thing. So knowing to be honest, knowing to treat your coworkers with respect, knowing to come to work on time.
Right.
And it's not a unique problem to
Right.
you. We encounter it lots of places, but it's exciting to hear about mentorship, because to me it's not only, and that's to me what occurs in a small business,
Right.
even more so than in a large company, is that opportunity to mentor your employees.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very
Thank you
much.
again.
So there's lots of great things that happen in Savannah. The Summer 500 has been a great thing to get high school students actually out into the business community where they can see what it really takes to work in the business. Next up, I'd like to introduce Rhett Mouchet. Rhett is an associate broker with Colliers International of Savannah, and he's going to talk about trends in commercial real estate. Thank you.
Thanks, Jay. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me again. I'm going to start off by saying I received a present a while back, a few months ago. It was a canister of spice, local spice, and it was named Savannah Sizzle. And when I was thinking about my talk today, I think Savannah Sizzle, the name of that spice, really characterizes our commercial and industrial real estate sector. So I'm going to try to cover as many as I can. Starting off with the industrial sector. Our occupancy levels are at an all-time high with an inventory of 53.4 million square feet. Vacancy decreased in 2016 to 2.43%, which is incredibly low. And even with an additional 10% of new inventory, it still dropped from 2.43 to 1.2% in 2017. That is absolutely, that's like no occupancy. Remember that vacancy in 2010, if you look at my chart, was 20%. Earlier than that, it was even higher. So the port continues to grow. Warehousing continues to be occupied, and Savannah is growing with new shipping industries coming in, new warehouse, new distribution. So as far as the industry with the industrial sector, we're boiling hot. We're more than sizzling in that sector. Retail, same situation. Even with total inventory on the increase, especially in the Pooler area, the vacancy rate remained about the same at 3.6%. Lease rates generally are up about 10%, but Broad Street Corridor and even some specialty centers are certainly showing that more of a significant increase. So we've got our retail sector that's on the sizzle actually also. I'm going to talk about the office sector. Virtually unchanged for many years, with the total inventory still hovering around 2.2 million square feet. Rates remain virtually unchanged with the same inventory. Vacancy is the lowest, though, since 2010 at 11.5%. Office market, very slow. As far as the sizzle factor, it's only on lukewarm to that sector. For 2018, just going to hit some high points here to keep your focus on. Keep your focus on the coming developments in corridors that will impact the entire Savannah area. One in particular, Savannah River Landing. I mentioned it last year, but now it's underway. 44 plus acres of mixed use. About the same land area as from Liberty Street to River Street and from East Broad to Martin Luther King Boulevard. That's a huge area, and the land area of Savannah River Landing is about that same size. It's going to be mixed use, apartments, multifamily, commercial, hospitality. The Canal District, a little smaller land area than Savannah River Landing. This development is also in the works that will center around the new arena. Mixed use also, institutional use possibly in there too, as well as Savannah River Landing. And then the last quadrant is I-16 and Pooler Parkway. The quadrants of the interchange will contain medical, institutional, retail, multifamily, single family, and all of these services, products, or whatever will expand our entire west side area because access will be close to I-16 right there, but it'll also be available for I-95 also. The only markets I didn't really mention was the multifamily market. Our multifamily is growing, and that's something we'll cover later. So thank you.
Thank you. That was interesting. So we're so popular that there's no space. Is that what you're saying?
Some areas, it's true.
Okay, so that means rent's gonna go up.
Rents are going up.
Is that
They
true,
are.
Will? Is
Yeah.
that, have you?
I think you've certainly seen that within I think you've certainly seen that within our corridor. You know, there seems to be a migration of a lot more locally owned businesses toward other corridors, which is healthy for that.
Right.
You know, I think it's going to be interesting to see how this hold and how these other corridors fill and what this sort of concentration brings, especially to like Broughton Street. You know, this was
Yeah.
one of the years that we probably saw more traffic during Black Friday than Small Business Saturday. And I think that was because, you know, people seeing Broughton Street as a viable, you know, local shopping district where they can get things that are different. Whereas before, probably a shop local thing was a little bit more, more driven toward the people wanting to come down there and contribute to local. And now it was because there's more down there and there's more being driven by the businesses that are differentiated.
And you see that like with the Dairyland District.
Yeah, talk about the Dairyland, that's
Dairyland
interesting.
District, fringe areas of our downtowns, what I call it, especially the Dairyland, whereas 10 years ago, you really had little activity there, no mass growth at all, but now it's really thriving. You ride through there and see the restaurants, the small shops that are there, plus just the people on the street. And I think that's a great sign of a thriving area, so I think that's going to happen.
So I've got a question. It said that the office space is not as active. Do you think that has to do with so many small businesses working from home?
I think that has something to do with it. Our downtown, especially our historic district. In that particular area, you have inefficient floor plates for the most part because we don't have brand new buildings. And hopefully Savannah River Landing will offer office in there that will attract office users. But our office market, our service industry, corporate industry really hasn't grown much. And you see that we have less than, I think the most we've had addition in 1 year for new office space has been about 15,000 square feet in any 1 year. And so if you look at the vacancy rates decreasing, it's because over an 8-year period of time, people have got to move somewhere. I think the efficiency of office space, but also the larger corporate users we have not been able to attract, and that's something that hopefully Savannah will start doing. We have a great cultural center, great attractors, not only downtown, but you know, the Pooler Market, South Side, West Side areas that will hopefully attract more of the major office users.
Rhett, do you see part of that being because of infrastructure? Could it be the lack of fiber that has been downtown in the past? You know, there seems to be more fiber that are coming. There was talk of municipal broadband at one point during the last election cycle. Do you see some of that being barriers to entry for Class A office space?
I haven't seen that as a major barrier. It's mentioned, but we haven't seen that much demand for it. You know, demand for the office user. So, you know, we don't. As a broker, I don't get that as an objection very much. It's more of a question, and then I shuttle that to someone else to answer and try to provide it, hopefully. Yeah.
Any other questions for Rhett? Awesome. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
More good information. Okay, our next speaker is on internet speeds and their effect on business growth by Susan Spiros, CEO at Spiros. Please welcome Susan.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Well, as everybody talked about their small businesses, mine will be starting its 34th year in business next year. Yay. So we've been around a while, and we are a technology business, and today we're going to talk a little bit about the internet. And Savannah's internet companies, AT&T, Windstream, Hargray, Spectrum, CenturyLink, and Sumitsu, all continue to be competitive with pricing and higher speeds of internet. I know that they just mentioned whether internet is a big thing to business owners, and I think it's usually a secondary thing after somebody moves or gets into a building. They say, oh, whoops, let me check and see if we have internet access and what the speeds are. So it is very important to business, small business and large business. Local companies, the ones I mentioned, continue to build out their fiber connections and to reach clients that have not had access to high-speed internet in the past. So that's very important. Does your business have high-speed internet access? And how much bandwidth does your business need? I just talked with Paul Mazo. He's running this whole thing today on a 6 meg up connection. So
What does that mean?
it means that it is very slow, but he's able to take the 6 megs and make sure that everybody out there that's watching is able to see us today. But most companies need high-speed internet for cloud and business applications, smart devices, wireless access, and for multiple users sharing the same network daily. Video and data collaboration amongst today's mobile workforce also determine how much bandwidth connectivity you will need. A lot of video, a lot of conferencing going on. Today's telephone systems, they all ride on the network, and the new VoIP telephone systems will not give you great call quality if you do not have sufficient bandwidth. The faster the internet, a crystal clear voice over internet protocol experience will be guaranteed. What is your current internet connection speed, and can your business have too much internet? The answer might surprise you, because if your business infrastructure is not capable of supporting the gigabit speeds, you might as well maintain your current connection. Because a lot of people, what they think is, I'm going to get more bandwidth, everything's going to be faster. Well, not always. Business customers must consider their building infrastructure, the cabling in their building, the patch panels, the patch cords, their switches and firewalls. They all play a part in providing the best experience on the internet. Even a simple desktop network card can slow down your performance. Before you jump into an increased monthly bill and have hopes of faster speeds, a technology survey of your infrastructure and hardware is necessary. The price for internet has gone down, so for a small amount more, most companies are adding a second connection for internet redundancy so that you're not left without having internet at all in your building or your business. There are two types of internet connections. One is asymmetrical. That is what most people have nowadays. And that means that it's not the same speeds up as it is down. And today, Paul said his internet connection we're using is a 6 meg up, and I forget what you said down, but it was really, really small. Symmetrical bandwidth has the same upload and download speeds and is much more aligned for business usage. For example, in a symmetrical bandwidth product, you could choose a guaranteed 50, 100, or 250 megs of bandwidth. And of course, people, they need speed to operate their businesses. Most companies today are operating with asymmetrical bandwidth connections because of the cost and the speeds. However, the best is to get a symmetrical. So that's it.
Thank you. We got some questions already. I know, Michael.
All righty.
Hey, Susan.
Hi.
I have a question for you. An increasing number of our SCORE clients are starting businesses based on e-commerce, internet marketing, et cetera. And I was wondering if you had any observations on the conversations going on that's threatening internet neutrality right now.
Yeah, I was going to ask the same question.
Well, it's a very interesting question because, again, it's Big Brother involving themselves in our business. So I don't know that net neutrality will go through, but if it does, I really think it's going to be bad for business, because then small businesses that are starting, their internet connections, their websites, doing business is going to be measured, and then they're going to be told how much more they have to pay for it.
So I think it's safe to say that small businesses should do some research on this, try to understand the impact that this may have on them, and if necessary, contact their congressmen and senators to express their opinions on how this might affect our business community.
We've got to keep it neutral, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy that, I mean, any time businesses can make money or prosper, the government wants to get a hold of it. So it's better that they just leave well enough alone and let everybody have access, equal access to the internet and run their
So
businesses.
give us a really concrete example. If in fact this net neutrality passes and it's not neutral anymore, how is that going to affect the small business owner?
It really depends on what kind of rate they put on it and what kind of business that you have. Because if you are e-commerce and you've got a lot of people that are coming into your business through the internet to buy your product, then I would say it would have a great effect on your business.
I think the way it's structured, or it's supposed to be structured, is that the more you consume, the more you pay. So if your entire business is based on internet traffic, and you have a lot of that traffic,
Right.
then even getting started, you kind of pay a penalty for your success, because you're gonna have more expenses for the lifeblood of your business.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what
Yeah, we'll
happens.
see.
But I would say definitely to contact your congressmen, your senators, and speak loudly if you don't want that to happen.
Thank you.
So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
So, that's one of the reasons why we're here, because small businesses need a voice. And together, we are 80% of the business in the United States. So band together, the Downtown Business Owners Association, the Tourism Leadership Council, your local Chamber of Commerce, all of those things, or just take it upon yourself to contact your local legislator and tell him what it means to you. Now, when a lobbyist calls a legislator, that's one of 100 lobbyists. When you call your legislator and say, this affects my business and my ability to pay taxes, they will listen.
That's really true. And when I go up to Atlanta, I do make a special trip to Isaacson's office and Purdue's office. And I did invite them to watch today, so I hope they're watching. But they rarely hear from small business owners, and it's crucial that you do go to them and tell them, no, we don't want we need to keep the internet neutral. So,
All right, and I would like to introduce our next presenter. It's Peter Giladucci. Peter is the Developmental Services Liaison for the City of Savannah. Peter?
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, sir.
As Joe said, I work for the City of Savannah at the Development Services Department. We're responsible for building and site permits, inspections, and we also deal with zoning and business location approvals. 2016 was a record year for building permitting. We had over $574 million worth of construction in the city, which was 42% higher than the prior record year, which was actually the year before when we had $405 million. So it's definitely a lot of construction going on in the city. In 2016, we had over 1,900 building permits reviewed and over 1,600 separate business location approvals reviewed. The top 20 building permits that were reviewed accounted for 64% of that 574 million, which is about 369 million. A lot of those larger projects I'm sure you've seen around town. It's the Plant Riverside Hotel development, the power plant on the river, 412 Williamson Street Hotel, the SCAD Weston Dyson, I think that was a resident hall complex, and the Perry Lane Hotel. So far through October of this year, we have 281 million in permits, which is not, at the levels of the previous year, but it's still a good year. And we still have about 78 million in permitting that's going to go out before the end of the year, which will bring us up to about 360 million, which will put us at about third highest we've had in the last 10-year period. Construction work in the city has shifted since the recession. It was a lot of residential, not as much commercial. It's definitely shifted towards commercial now. Back in 2009, I believe it was, there was the lowest total ever for commercial permitting at $40 million. And last year in 2016, it hit an all-time high of 317 million for just commercial. Residential has also been slowly growing from 30 million in 2011 to about 75 million year-to-date so far this year. As I said, permitting has decreased since last year, but again, last year was a record year, and honestly, that's just the start of it. When we get permits, that doesn't mean the buildings are up. They still have construction, and it could be another year or two before all that's done, so that's basically the start of the flow, really, in 2016, not the end. The City of Savannah also has a business location approval process. That's a service I definitely recommend everyone take before you sign a lease, before you buy a building. I recommend you come in to us and make sure your business is approved, is zoned properly for that area, for that building, and make sure that building will meet the needs for the business you're opening. Sometimes we get people coming in that already signed the lease, and turns out they can't even open their business there, and it's rough, but we recommend you come into us first and get that information beforehand. And that's pretty much it.
Great. Well, thank you, Peter. That's phenomenal. Just the fact that the city of Savannah is here is just a great testament to the fact that you are reaching out to the community.
Mm-hmm.
And two of the things that you do that I'd like you to just kind of tell people about is the site plan review
Yeah.
and the building plan review, which is new. So if you could tell, so if you're interested in starting a business, you can go to the city of Savannah and actually sit down with with everyone in the permitting process and just informally run that by them without having to spend a lot of money on plans and engineering. So can you tell us when and how you
Yeah,
can do that?
on Tuesdays or Mondays and Thursdays, we have something called SPR, site plan review, and you can come in, at any stage of your project, whether it's just, a site that you want to look at, or you have building plans, and we have all the departments there, and you can meet with them one-on-one and ask your questions, and we, try to head up the problems we may see, and then on Thursdays, we also have BPR, building plan review, and that's more geared towards the actual building plans. We can look at it and see. It's just a one-on-one with all the different trades.
So if I draw a picture on a napkin and I have a really great idea, can I bring it to that meeting and you
Yeah,
guys
sure.
can help me with it?
We won't kick you out.
Great. So, it's daunting if you have to go to an engineer and pay $10,000 and to just get started. So if I have a great idea, I can run it by the city, then I can go and hire an engineer. And so don't be afraid to have that great idea and to bring that napkin sketch with you and to get something started.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. More good news, okay. So next we have the talk about the film industry in Savannah by Charles Bowen, corporate entertainment attorney at the Bowen Law Group. Please welcome Bo.
Thank you. When I spoke at this event last year, I reported that Georgia was third in the country in number of film productions, trailing only California and New York, but I said it was gaining fast. Well, I'm happy to report now that Georgia has not only jumped to number 1 in the country, it's jumped to number 1 in the world with number of film productions. Great. England is number 2, Canada number 3, California now number 4. So, but of particular interest to the coastal empire, how much of that is taking place here? Well, statewide, the film industry spent well over $2 billion in the state of Georgia last year. And in Savannah, in 2014, total production spending in Savannah was right at $18 million. By 2016, it had risen to $61 million. Well, in 2014, that was only 1% of the total statewide. In 2016, that still had only risen to 3% of the total spending statewide. And I think I speak for all of us when I say that's not good enough. So the entertainment industry is clean. It provides thousands of great paying jobs to laborers, which make up a huge percentage of Savannah's population that fall below the poverty line. And the overall economic impact in the industry in Savannah in 2016 was over $130 million. And that benefited almost every industry in the city. It benefits hotels, restaurants, florists, clothing stores, furniture stores, waste management companies, drivers, insurance companies. You name it, they need it. And luckily for me, that even includes lawyers. So what is it that's holding Savannah back? Why are we only at 3%? And the answer to that's actually pretty easy. It's infrastructure. Savannah has hit capacity with the number of films that can film here. So it's one of the most important resources necessary to attract larger productions and numbers of productions are sound stages. And for those of you unfamiliar with that term, a sound stage is a large building specifically for filming, where a production company can come in, build a set, control the temperature, they control the lighting, the sound equipment's already set up, they control everything and can just leave their sets there for weeks or even months. So how does Savannah compare with Atlanta when it comes to sound stages? Well, Atlanta has approximately 50. Savannah has exactly 0 dedicated sound stages at present. So if a production comes to town, they do not have a place to build sets. They have no option but to film on location. And until that happens, that's what's keeping Savannah from reaching its full potential. So no other industry has the growth potential of the entertainment industry. 2018 is going to be amazing. If you look at the total budgets of the films already slated to film in Savannah next year, it's in the, not the tens of millions, it's in the hundreds of millions that are slated to film in 2018. If we can couple our region's beauty, our region's resources with the right infrastructure and local government involvement and support, Savannah literally could become the single most sought after film destination in the world. I believe that. Thank you.
Well, I've got a lot of questions. I mean, that is phenomenal. Why don't we have a film studio here?
Well, it's something, that's a question that many people have asked for many years. And there have been a lot of false starts trying to get there. But it's one problem we face is space, because so much of the available space is being used by other resources. For example, the port, and there's certainly the tourism industry, those type of things, that I don't think it's a relatively recent phenomenon that the actual, possible economic impact this industry could have has started to come to the forefront.
Well, it already has had a really huge impact on Savannah. What do the small business owners that have shops downtown and around Savannah, what do they need to be aware of how important this is for us?
Well, two things. One is that it is having a tremendous economic positive impact on the city. So kind of like when tourism exploded after Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil several years ago, and at first people were like, hey, I don't want tourists walking past my front yard. Well, the film industry is the same thing. It's really beneficial overall to the city. And if you own a small business, then you want to take part in that. You want to get involved. And you can go, the Savannah Film Office has a website, filmsavannah.org, that you can go and register. And then when every production comes to town, they have a list of the service providers here, right at their fingertips.
There seems to be a lot of opportunity available in this industry. I mean, what would you recommend? I mean, if somebody's watching, trying to figure out what kind of business to go into, I mean, how are you keeping up with all the entertainment?
One of the biggest demands is for crew. And when you talk about crew in the film industry, those are great paying jobs. Those are in the neighborhood of $60,000, $70,000 a year jobs, $70,000 a year, benefits, health insurance, retirement, and there's just simply not enough people here to fill those jobs.
But how do you get trained in that? Are there any local schools doing it?
There are. At the Savannah Tech, they have the Georgia Film Academy there, and it's not just the Georgia Film Academy, but many of the programs there, and many of the programs at the other schools here also, you can come out, and it really is an industry that you kind of start at the bottom and intern and work your way up, but there's a ton of opportunity here for anyone interested.
Gosh, and just to be an extra, I mean, how do you go about doing that?
Well, there's, on Facebook, there's a Savannah Film Extras page. You can just kind of search for it, and there's opportunities every week to do things like that.
More good news. Thank you both.
Sure.
Thank you.
And our next presenter will be Lee Beckman with the Georgia Ports Authority. Lee?
Well, thank you for the opportunity to speak here. There's a lot of great things going on. I'm very excited to see that and to hear this. It seems like opportunity is the word of the day, and I'm going to continue saying that word as well. Everyone sees the news and the articles in the paper. Obviously, we have our benchmarks that we've submitted, and we're seeing a lot of growth. Business is booming at the Port Authority. Last year was a record year. The first quarter of this year, we moved over 1 million container units through Savannah. October, we experienced 32% growth. I mean, it's phenomenal, and so we're very, very excited. When I go around the state and I talk about the impacts that we have on the economy, a lot of times you hear people say, well, that's big business. That's not us. That's not me. That's not my personal life. And there could be nothing further from the truth. Our job at the Port Authority is to create jobs for Georgia, and it's large businesses and small businesses alike. Here locally, you know, I can name a number of businesses off the top of my head. You know, 24E rule is moving cargo through the Port Authority. Jerry's Antiques on Bay Street, they're moving cargo through the Port Authority. You know, and all it takes is just the, you know, the willingness to step out there and to move, you know, cargo internationally. You know, it's certainly a huge impact on our economy, and there's a lot of opportunities, whether it's SCORE or through the World Trade Center, to go and talk to experts and have them teach you, you know, how to move cargo, what you need to know, what you need to do. And so I would encourage any small business owner who is looking and watching this, or you know, seeing it later on, to go and reach out to those folks. Once you figure out how to do it and you're moving it, and if you have any problems or questions, we've got the only client relations center in the port industry in America. And our folks will actually call, you'll call them, they'll talk to you, they'll say, here's my problem, they'll help you figure out how to solve that problem. And you're not calling, you know, one person who's going to send you to another, who's going to send you to another. You're talking to one person, and that one person's going to solve your problem. So our job, we are a service industry. We want to provide the best service in the nation. There's a reason why we're growing faster than everybody else, and it is because we provide the best service. And so, you know, for any small business owner that's thinking about it, it's just a little bit nervous, all it takes is that first step, and you'll realize that it's a lot easier than you think it is. And so I would encourage everyone to do that, and look forward to many more opportunities in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So just not only the cargo that's being shipped through the ports, but the truck drivers, so not only the end user rule who's shipping it, but someone has to drive that truck, someone has to drive the drayage truck that comes from the ports to the warehouse, someone has to drive the long haul truck.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, what is your dollar spend for construction, do you know off the top of your head, for the next 5 years?
We're looking over the next 10 years to spend a couple $2 billion on our terminal.
So they're going to spend a couple of $1 billion in construction costs, which is, you know, a lot of civil construction, but I think 4 new cranes just came up the
4
river.
new cranes came up the river. We've got 6 more coming next year. So there's a lot of room, and we're building that so that we can accommodate tomorrow's demand. And so we're seeing this demand coming down the line, and we're really excited about the future.
Great. And then one other thing, if you could tell us a little bit about the intermodal, so that you're also spending a lot of money in trains and freight, and in building probably the largest shipping switching yard in the East Coast when you're done, correct?
Right. You know, we're spending about $140 million on a expansion of our rail opportunities in Savannah. It's going to double our capacity for rail. It's going to allow us to better serve the Midwest, whether it's Chicago, Columbus, Ohio, you know, St. Louis, Memphis, Atlanta. We've actually gotten some new business as a result of this announcement down in Texas. And so, you know, again, very excited about that. And you know, if you are serving those areas with your business, then obviously there's opportunity there to get your cargo to those locations.
Great. And the increase in rail decreases the number of trucks locally on the roads.
Yes.
And it also helps to move it more efficiently. And you've also electrified your entire rubber-tired gantry fleet, and the ship-to-shore cranes are electric.
Yes, we're moving to electric, which is better, of course, for the environment. But it also reduces costs, operational costs. We're not spending money on energy like we were you know, previously per container moved or per ton moved through our facility. You keep mentioning trucks. Another good thing to think about with these trucks is many of them are independent owner operators.
Yeah.
So they are small businesses unto themselves. And the couple of thousands of truck drivers that are coming and going every day, they're having to make ends meet. And if we're not doing an efficient job of helping them move that cargo, then they're not able to take as much money home to their families. And so we want to be the most efficient port for them as well. Great.
Right, and that's really what I was going to talk about, is that a lot of those drivers have independent companies. They are small businesses. They do have training for them for the CDL licensing and all at Savannah Technical College and other colleges here in Savannah.
Yes.
So when you think about Georgia ports, you think, oh, that's not small business, it's so big. But there are so many different points and different industries within those, you know, that small businesses really stand out.
You're right.
So it is so important to all of us.
There's a lot of opportunity out there. There is a shortage of truckers. So there's an
Right.
opportunity. If you want to drive a truck, you can own your own business. And it's not uncommon to hear truck drivers who purchase their own vehicle, they're running their own vehicle, but they've got other drivers working for them.
Right.
And so, I mean, that's an opportunity for businesses to expand.
Right.
And you know, it just takes a little bit of hard work.
And to get your CDL, that commercial
yes,
driver's
commercial
license.
driver's license, yes,
Yeah,
you have to
okay,
have that.
perfect.
Yeah.
Wonderful, thank you so
Thank you.
much. Thank you.
I wanted to touch too on, Lee mentioned the part about customer service out at Georgia Ports. You know, we are a tiny, tiny company. And they treat me like I'm family. They treat me like I'm Home Depot. And, you know, and because of Georgia Ports, we've been able to augment our business and, you know, drive down a lot of things that, as far as pricing and stuff like that, so that we remain competitive. We're designing our own product. We're having it built overseas, some of it, and brought in through Georgia Ports. And it has given us that differentiation that is helping us to be not only competitive, but be really competitive. And without Georgia Ports and people like Lee and their customer service, we couldn't do that.
Well, we appreciate that. We know that you have a choice of where you want to move your cargo, and we want to provide the best service so that you always choose us. So thank you for your
Thank you,
business.
Thanks, Lee. Thank you, Lee.
Thank you.
More wonderful news. Okay, our next speaker, our next presentation is on tourism by Michael Owens, CEO of the Tourism Leadership Council.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me. Since this is my first time having the opportunity for State of Small Business, rather than look at just a one-year scope, which I'll move more to next year, I want to look at a 5-year scope of the industry. I think one of the important things to understand is we're similar to the ports. Our size makes us think that this is all big business, but I hope to change a little bit of that thought today. The overall spending of visitation in 2016 was $2.9 billion. Breaking that into different sectors, $962 million spent in lodging, $762 million spent in restaurants, $478 million in our retail establishments, $335 million, this is per year by the way, in recreation, and $303 million in transportation. That represents a little bit over a 34% increase in spending over 5 years. I think that misnomer that when you think of the industry, you think of big hotels or chain hotels. It's important to know that there's only 2 corporate hotels in Savannah at all. That's the Westin and the Brights. Everything else is locally owned or a smaller company. Even one of the most famous hotels that we have in Savannah, the Marshall House. The Marshall House has fewer than 50 employees. It certainly qualifies. And the owners are Savannians. We find that true all over. In addition, I want to take a second and talk about the retail spending at just under $500 million. Understanding that our visitors that are coming, that's not money they're spending in Walmart or Target. They're spending it in small business retail areas throughout the city that we continue to see grow. In fact, if you talk to one of the more prominent furniture companies on Broughton Street, he'll tell you that 70% of his business to 75% of his business, the furniture store, is visitors, right? So we have massive impacts on small business in all sectors. And much like others that induce jobs, when you think of tourism, don't again think of just hotels. Certainly that's a big part of it. But we think farmers, we think truck drivers, we think graphic designers, we think sales professionals, we think web developers, we think attorneys, we think human resource specialists. Very, very few industries induce more jobs and labor than we do. And I'm happy to take any questions.
You have a question?
This is an informal
I object.
Hi. What is the impact of the film industry is bringing a lot of celebrities to Savannah, and is that boosting tourism?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. So in the social media world in general, right, we talk about influencers. Those are people that are getting paid to say they like something or something like that. Well, just last week, Michael Douglas did a selfie of one of the prettiest houses in Savannah, 26 Gaston Street. It went viral. Everybody went crazy. It's a great way for people to see maybe something they hadn't noticed before. So film goes, and matter of fact, many organizations, whether they be governmental or non-governmental organizations, put tourism and film together for a very, very good reason. But yeah, they're certainly driving forces for each other.
Okay, I was just interesting because that same furniture company that you're talking about had Miley Cyrus visit, and they was a big boom on social media too.
Rule, tell us about that.
I don't know who it was, but it rhymes with Rule Joyner.
Yeah.
She was in town, and she, you know, actually there was a Mighty Mouse in front of our store, and that drew her in. And she came in and saw some of the more unique pieces that we have. We have some stuff that we upcycle from airplane parts to, you know, really fashion-forward pieces. And she started FaceTiming with her mother, who was in Nashville, like live. And then the next thing I know, there's people coming in our store that are like following her because she had posted something. We ended up having to lock the door, and but she, you know, she literally had live faced her mother, and her mother was asking me for line sheets on some of these products, like they were just, you know, out of a catalog. And I told her, I said, Mrs. Cyrus, that, you know, a lot of the stuff we design build, I'll take a picture of it and I'll send you the measurements. And she says, well, I'm just going to have to come down there, aren't I? And I told her that I'd pick her up. And the following day, she had flown from Nashville to Savannah. And I'm happy to report that Mrs. Cyrus is a client of ours now. And that's because of tourism.
That's what my sister is.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Michael, can you tell us a little bit about the upward mobility of tourism?
Yeah, and I think that's an extraordinarily important role that tourism can play when some industries can't. We're an industry that really does come from the bottom of those entry-level jobs. If you look at almost all of the management that's in the industry today, they started out as housekeepers, busboys, dishwashers. I mean, that's truly the rule within our industry. With no offense to our friends at the hospital, but you can't start at a hospital changing sheets between patients and in a few years become a doctor without going to a specialty school. Well, it's the rule in our industry. If you're willing to work, if you're willing to selflessly serve others, which is really the tendency of our industry, you can start as a housekeeper, you can start as a busboy, and you can be a GM or an owner. As a matter of fact, one of my favorite stories is a guy that I worked for a long, long time. His name's Charles Robert. He's the owner of HLC Hotels, and in 1979, he was a busboy for HLC Hotels. That's where he started, and now he's the owner of the company. There's really few other industries that can offer that sort of upward mobility with the quickness that it has too, especially in such a really popular market like we have now. Look, we've got 16 projects within the pipeline in the next couple of years. That's an absolute testament by lenders and investors that we expect a really terrific market for many, many years to come. And as that competition increases, it's better for the workforce and labor force and pay rates. But there's a gentleman named Guillermo Montes who's our youngest general manager in the city, and from houseman, which is a sort of a male version of housekeeping, houseman to general manager was 3.5 years. That's a spectacular success story that, again, is not the exception, it's the rule.
That's great. I just wanted to talk about the economic impact of the Plant McIntosh Hotel, the Kessler project, and what it's going to do for that MLK corridor of Jefferson, kind of an underutilized, the underutilized end of Bay and River. Can you talk a little bit?
Yeah, so we're going to see what we loosely refer to as bookends. So you've got the riverfront project there on the west side, which is the Kessler Collection and the Tribute Hotel, which is a substantial investment. Then on the east side with North Point Hospitality, over $300 million going there. In hospitality and tourism in the next 36 months, it's over $1 billion worth of investment that you're going to see, and the construction that goes with that. We feel that those projects as bookends will be game changers, right? That is really going to increase visitation in between. River Street will again become one of the most popular destinations on the east side, and you will see a change in the retail offering that happens there. What we do know is that our visitors are spending more than they were 5 years ago. 5 years ago was an average of $168 per person per day. Now we're seeing over $201. That's an enormous increase in just 5 years. We know that folks have got more money available to spend in a destination, right? And we're seeing a huge increase in the retail. Well, as the traffic goes and continues because of those bookend projects, you're going to see that retail number jump up considerably. And remember, this is a great opportunity for small business to offer something unique. People coming to Savannah, they're not interested in Walmart, they're not interested in Target. They want something uniquely Savannah, they want something that's handcrafted. Buy local is not a trend just here locally, it's certainly for all of our visitors. They know that trend, and so you can create the product to satisfy that demand.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Our next presenter is going to be Tony O'Reilly. Tony is the president of the Small Business Assistance Corporation, and he's going to speak about small business and their access to capital in the Savannah region. Tony?
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate being here. Thank you, Marjorie, very much. Small Business Assistance Corporation is a nonprofit community development financial institution of the Department of Treasury. We make loans to small businesses that are Well, we make loans from $2,500 to $5.5 million. I'm gonna chime in. Small business owners in our service area are feeling very optimistic about local economic conditions if lending trends at SBAC are a barometer for their sentiments. SBAC is experiencing a rise in the number of inquiries from business owners looking to finance new equipment, facilities improvement, and working capital. There's a sense of real revenue growth. I mean, the folks feel it, and they're also saying that there's just a whole good, better climate of business conditions. So as a result of that, we're seeing them understand that now is the time to do some good strategic planning for job creation and capital investment to meet the growing demand that's out there. Manufacturing, tourism, port activity, medical sector, military spending, real estate construction are all contributing to economic stability and growth in 17 and 18. Also stoking this optimism of small business owners beyond the economic climate is talk of deregulation, tax relief for small businesses, regulatory relief for banking rules that have constrained funding of small businesses is also on the table. The small business community remains hopeful about better tax and regulatory environment coming their way. Credit conditions are pretty good. There's a lot of competition to make loans to the most creditworthy small businesses amongst our 22 traditional lending banks in the market. Then you throw on the addition of the alternative lenders, you have a good environment for access to capital. SBAC in 2016, we processed and approved 37 applications for a total of $47.8 million. In 17, we did 50 projects for a total of $95 million. Over the last 5 years, SBAC has financed 98 small new businesses. So access to capital is not an obstacle to success for seasoned creditworthy small businesses. On the other hand, entrepreneurs wanting to start a business or finance their growth of a fledgling enterprise in 18, they might find it a little more difficult. But if they find a knowledgeable banker, they will be able to get it by alternative financing sources like SBAC. So everybody needs to shop local and keep that real sense of revenue growth going. Thank you.
Got a question for you. So let's say we're a small business owner and we need to borrow some money. I mean, what's the difference between getting an SBA loan and going through the bank? I mean, how does that process work?
Well, the reason for SBA, SBAC is to create better access to capital. It's for those that might not otherwise get it through traditional sources. So the SBA and or SBAC will help banks make loans first and foremost. So if somebody if a bank says we can do 500,000 of your deal, but you're still 200,000 short, you go to the SBA or the SBAC. If they won't do it at all, they come to a community development lender. Our credit criteria and our underwriting criteria are a bit different, and we have what we call economic development value, and being a small business is one of those criteria. So that's our mission, is to create better access. The SBA guarantee or the SBA subordinated debt is there, but you have to come prepared. The paperwork thing, that's going to happen in a traditional loan. All that deregulation, it's not happened yet. That's all still there. And but the Small Business Resource Center over at over on Liberty with SCORE and SBAC are there to help you through those kinds of obstacles.
Well, thank you. That makes good sense. Thank you. my gosh, do we only have 2 left here? We do, Catalina. So our next talk is on education, and this is the first time that we've had education at the State of Small Business, and the business community felt that it's really important to track how well our graduation rates are, and that's a big draw for business owners thinking about coming to Savannah, or people just even moving to Savannah, that we have really good education opportunities and stats. So anyhow, our presenter is Catalina Garcia Quick. She is the Executive Director of Community in Schools. Thank you.
This is exciting. I have to say, you know, I've been in Savannah since 1987, and I think this is probably the most exciting time. So I'm very excited to be here, very happy to be here. To kind of piggyback on what Marjorie said, you know, coming in today, I had a lot of people ask me, well, Kat, what does education have to do with small business? I mean, what does education have to do with the state of small business? Well, if you're a business looking to move here or a corporation looking to move here and you've got employees who you have to pay salaries to, you're going to look at graduation rates. You're going to look at how the schools are performing. If the public school system here is not performing well, or wherever you may be, then you as a business really may have to increase your salary levels to your employees so that they can afford the option of private school in the area. I'm happy to report here in Savannah we are doing very well. Currently, for the 5th straight year in a row across the state of Georgia, the graduation rate is 80.6% as of 2017. Here in Savannah, we're actually, our graduation rates per the Savannah-Chatham County Public School System, we are at 84.3%. So we had over 2,000 graduates this past year in 2017, and our graduates received over $40 million in academic and athletic scholarships. So our school system here is performing well. We're well over the state rate. We're actually well over the national rate, which is 83.2%.
Repeat that. That is so significant.
Yes.
I mean, that is, everybody in Savannah needs to hear that again. That is beautiful news.
The national graduation rate across the country is 83.2%. That's as of October of 2016. That was the last data that I was able to retrieve. The state, we were at 79.4 in 2016, and we are currently at 80.6 as of 2017. Wow. It's the first time actually that the state has gone above 80%.
It's huge.
It is. It really is, and it's good because here in Savannah with our 84.3 graduation rate, I mean these are kids that are moving into our workforce. These are the future of our city. These rural, wherever he went, he touched on what about soft skills? Education is an important part of that. I mean these attendance, behavior, critical thinking, that kind of thing that all plays into a graduate's role as a employee later in life. So, that I'm happy to say, we've got a lot of good things. We've got 3 STEM certified schools. We've got 2 blue ribbon schools. This past week, the school district actually launched the Savannah Career Academy over at Savannah High, which is huge. That kind of goes back to like back in the day, 80s, with that VOTEC type approach to education, because not every student is tracking to that 4-year university. And Georgia, as a state, is actually struggling with students who come out of high school skilled in trades. So, state of education in Savannah right now, very good.
Gosh, that's fantastic news. I can't even tell you how happy that makes me.
Yeah, no, it's really, really good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Michael has a question.
I do.
Yes,
I do.
sir.
Hi, Kat.
Hey.
I just want to say something. It's
Come close
great.
to the mic
Oh,
there.
sorry. SCORE has had partnerships with colleges and universities as well as small businesses.
Mm-hmm.
But 3 weeks ago, Mr. Phillips at Beach High School invited us over. He has an entrepreneurship class for seniors. And for the first time, we were able to share what we call the reality check presentation to his entrepreneurship class about what the realities are about small business and entrepreneurial characteristics. And the kids were great. And we look forward to more partnerships like that with the school system, so that was very exciting.
I'm very glad to hear it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And next up, we have Brant Herndon. He is the Vice President of Business Development for the Savannah Economic Development Authority. And thank you very much, sir, for we saved the best for last, so our last presenter for the day.
Thank you very much. I'm Brant Herndon, Vice President of Business Development, and a lot of people, we go by the acronym of SEDA. So what does SEDA mean? What does it stand for? The Savannah Economic Development Authority, and we're the governmental agency that is charged with attracting industry here to Savannah and Chatham County. So how do we do that? We have two initiatives. One is business attraction, which is typically working with companies looking to locate in Chatham County. A lot of them are small, not all of them are big. So we work with a lot of international companies, maybe 4 or 5 employees trying to get established here in Chatham County, probably because they have a port component. But more importantly, when it comes to small businesses, through our business retention and expansion program. And I think this has already been stated once, but I want to reiterate, 70 to 80% of all jobs are created by existing companies. So that's very important to see that, and it's not lost on us, is that it's very important for us to help our existing companies to grow. So how do we do that? By trying to provide assistance. And if anybody saw this week's paper, the Savannah Morning News, you saw an article about bird cookies, and we had a very small part in helping them to grow. So that's what we're here to do, trying to find ways to help local companies grow. So trying to work with our traditional companies and also with emerging industries. We have somebody dedicated to trying to find opportunities for SCAD students who are graduating. Some of them would like to stay in the area. Not all of them want to go to Orlando and work for Disney or Chicago and New York. Trying to find just that person who has an idea, or maybe they've already started a company, and help them grow from 1 to 2 to 3 employees. I mean, that is as important to CETA as attracting a big company, because we know if we can get started in that initiative, it will continue to grow. And then the third, kind of piggybacking on what Charles had talked about, is the film opportunity. The Savannah Film Office is now housed within CETA, and Charles was exactly right. In order for the film business to grow, we have to have a sound stage, and we're working on that initiative now. But the filming has come on fast, has come on strong, and it has a tremendous impact on small businesses here, and we can't lose that momentum moving forward. So, but again, the small businesses are the lifeblood of our economy. Just kind of give you an idea of what we've done this past year, kind of trends over a 5-year. We've had about 15 announcements. Of those announcements, typically 10 of them are local companies. So sometimes, you know, the fanfares with the new company comes and the newspaper comes and there's a big article. A lot of times these 10 companies that are growing, they don't get the press that some of the other companies do, but it's very important to us. We've had some impact on about 1,000 jobs with our capital investment, about $400 million. We had about 63 projects come our way this year, and we had about 56 visits. So it's been a good year for CETA. I hope it continues to have a good year. Enjoy working with almost everybody who's presented here today. We seem to have a relationship with everybody, for most everybody here, and that's what the CETA initiative is, and we hope for next year have another good year.
Thank you. So one of the biggest things that we can do to help CETA and to help have people move to Savannah is let them know about your office and all the good things, okay?
Yes. Yeah, our webpage, I think it's a very good webpage. We've won several awards through our different organizations that we are involved with. So if you are interested in CETA or what CETA can do, please go to our webpage, especially if you're a small business and you're looking for space. We list available space on our webpage, and it's just nothing better than a phone call. We get a lot of phone calls from a lot of people asking questions. There's not a bad question. And really what we do a lot is point people in the right direction. We don't have all the answers. A lot of times we don't have any of the answers, but we know who to call. Right. Especially as a lot of people in this room.
You know, I travel a lot, and when I tell people I'm from Savannah, they go, Savannah? I love Savannah. I mean, they don't say like Detroit. No, they're like, I love Savannah. We're just so fortunate to be here. So, and they always say, well, what does it take to move here? Like, are the school systems good? Is the environment good? I'm like, absolutely. And we just need to tell them to visit CETA, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Very
We
good.
just, as Rhett said, we just need more space. We have to build some capacity,
Right.
sound stages, things like that. We're kind of a victim of our own success to a certain extent right now. So we got to just keep moving in a positive direction. But you're right about Savannah.
Savannah.
We hear the comment, without a doubt, anybody that shows up in our office, it doesn't matter if they're from the United States or international, the first thing out of their mouths is, this is a beautiful city.
We're so lucky.
It's an easy sell, but you got to have the infrastructure and the resources in order to make it work.
And the education.
And the
We're
education.
all
We're all in it together.
heading- right, absolutely.
We're all in it together.
And that's why this conference is so important, just so we can get a snapshot every single year of where we are. So thank you for presenting.
Thank you.
So we're going to wrap it up. Dr. Toma, if you don't mind coming up and just, what do you think about all the information that was presented today?
Sometimes the smartest things you can say are the ones that you don't say, because you learn a lot, like as I did during this presentation. So rather than speculating about what our potential problems may be or challenges we may face in Savannah area, I mean, we hear over and over how great things are going right now. What I have learned is that there's certainly an enormous amount of opportunity out there. If there's a Grinch out there for Savannah, that it comes down to the two words, basically: capacity constraints, right? What are we going to do to create office space? What are we going to do to create warehousing space for the distribution industry to support the port industry? What are we going to do about our labor constraints? Our labor market is pretty much tapped out right now. Our unemployment rate is around 4%. In the pooler area, it's below 4%. So there are labor market constraints. We need to figure a way to enhance the skill set of our workforce and the population. Our schools are going to play an important role in that because they are providing the future employers in our area. So capacity constraints are a big issue for us. Labor constraints are an issue for us. On the political side, we've heard about some issues that could affect our businesses at the national level with this net neutrality issue. I would also encourage you to think about political issues here locally. We're talking about spending $3 or $4 billion. We don't have a problem with access to capital. We're talking about investing $3 or $4 billion in our local economy over the next few years. We have to contact our policymakers and our politicians, our city councilmen and our county commissioners, and make sure that they are thinking about how we were going to plan for this growth. So that's kind of that's what I see from what I've heard so far. This is just a wonderful opportunity to learn so much about what's happening on the street in Savannah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
I think the one thing we want to do, and we haven't done, is to thank our military. We have a huge military presence here in the Savannah area, and that's kind of the third leg of we have a tourism stool, we have a port stool, and we have a military stool. So just want to thank the people that have served, the people that are serving, and make sure that we understand that they are a huge contributor to our economic impact here.
Huge.
So as there are, as the BRAC is being bandied about in Washington, D.C., please be aware to support the local military presence here in Savannah. So the base realignment and closures, we want to make sure that Savannah stays as a military-friendly community, and that we do all we can to keep that important part of our community here. All right? So that wraps it up.
That does. That wraps it up. We will have a State of Small Business in 2018. We don't know the date yet. We want to thank Stagefront for the live stream. We want to thank Bethesda, and we want to thank the Small Business Panel, and we want to thank all the presenters. So thank you again.